I used to think imaginary friends were harmless, just something lonely kids created when they needed comfort. That's what my parents thought too, right up until the night they realized he wasn't just in my head. I was 6 when I first met him. His name was Grinny. At least that's what he told me to call him. I remember the first time I saw him sitting in the corner of my bedroom, legs folded in a way that didn't look comfortable, like his joints bent wrong. He looked like a kid, roughly my age, but thinner, too thin. His skin was pale gray, stretched tight across his face like it didn't quite fit him, and he was always smiling. Not a normal smile. His grin stretched too far across his cheeks, pulling the skin near his ears. I remember asking him why he smiled so much, and he told me, "Because I'm happy you can finally see me." At first, he was nice. He played with my toys, helped me build towers with my blocks, and told me stories when I couldn't sleep. He knew games I had never heard of. Games where we would sit in the dark and listen for noises in the house. He said it helped him feel closer. My parents thought it was cute when I talked about him. They would ask questions like where he lived or what he looked like. I always told them he lived in my closet because he liked the dark and he didn't like mirrors. They laughed when I said that. They stopped laughing a few weeks later. Grinny started teaching me secrets. He told me things I couldn't have known. He told me about the loose step on the basement stairs that my dad had been meaning to fix. He told me about the envelope of money my mom hid inside an old cookbook. He even told me about the stray cat that died under our porch years before we moved in. I asked him how he knew all this. He just smiled wider. "I listen," he said. One night I woke up to him sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. His face hovered inches from mine, his smile splitting his face nearly in half. His breath smelled like damp wood and rot. "You snore," he whispered. "I don't like it." I tried to scream for my parents, but he placed a finger over my lips. His finger felt freezing, like touching ice left out in winter air. "Don't tell them about me," he said. "They won't understand." I nodded because I couldn't do anything else. He slid off me and crawled backwards across the ceiling into the closet. I remember hearing the closet door creak open slowly, even though I never saw him touch it. After that, things in the house started changing. Toys would move by themselves. My parents blamed me for leaving them around. The TV would sometimes turn on in the middle of the night to channels that were just static. Our dog refused to come into my room anymore. It would sit in the hallway, whining and scratching at the floor like it wanted to dig its way out of the house. Grinny told me animals were rude guests. The first time my parents got scared was when my mom heard me talking at night. She came to check on me and found me sitting upright in bed facing the closet. She asked who I was talking to. I told her, "Grinny says you shouldn't open that door." She laughed nervously and opened it anyway. Nothing was inside, just clothes and shoes. But I remember the look on her face when she turned back toward me, because I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was looking at the ceiling, and I was smiling. Grinny got angry after that. He told me she almost ruined everything, that I had to prove I was still his friend. He told me friendships required sacrifices. He started showing me things in the dark, shapes that moved in the corners of the room, faces that pressed against the walls like they were trying to push through. He said they were his old friends who didn't listen. The night everything changed. There was a storm outside. The power kept flickering. My parents were downstairs arguing about whether they should take me to a therapist. Grinny stood in my doorway, taller than I had ever seen him before. His head nearly touched the frame, his neck bending at an unnatural angle so he could look inside. "They don't believe in me," he said. I didn't answer. "They think you're sick." I told him they were just worried. His smile slowly faded for the first time. "That makes them dangerous." He told me to go downstairs and lock the basement door. I didn't want to, but he stood behind me the entire time, guiding me down the stairs. I could feel his breath on the back of my neck the whole way. When I reached the basement door, I noticed it was already open. The light inside flickered weakly, buzzing like it was struggling to stay alive. Grinny whispered, "Good, they're ready." I asked him who he meant. He leaned down so his mouth was right next to my ear. "The ones who live in the walls?" I remember screaming when I saw movement in the basement. Shapes crawling along the ceiling beams, hands sliding out between the cracks in the foundation, faces forming in the concrete.
Like something was trying to be born through it. My parents came running when they heard me. My dad grabbed me and slammed the basement door shut. He yelled at my mom to call someone, anyone. I looked past my dad's shoulder. Grinny stood at the top of the basement stairs behind them. His body stretched unnaturally tall, his arms dangling nearly to the floor. His grin had returned, wider than ever, splitting his cheeks open so far I could see rows of thin, needle-like teeth behind it. "They opened the door," he whispered. My parents turned around, and they saw him. My dad tried to swing at him. His fist passed straight through Grinny like smoke, but Grinny didn't move. He just leaned forward and whispered something into my dad's ear. I never heard what he said. My dad dropped to his knees, screaming and clutching his head like something was trying to crawl out of it. My mom grabbed me and ran outside into the storm. I remember looking back through the front window and seeing my dad being dragged toward the basement door by shadows that stretched across the floor like spilled ink. The last thing I saw was Grinny waving at me through the glass. They told me later that my dad disappeared that night. No sign of forced entry, no footprints, nothing. Just the basement door hanging open when police arrived. My mom and I moved away after that. New house, new city, new life. For years, I convinced myself Grinny was just a nightmare my mind created to cope with losing my dad. Until last week. My son is 6 years old. Last night, I walked past his bedroom and heard him giggling. I smiled at first, thinking he was playing with toys or watching videos on his tablet. Then I heard him say, "No, Daddy says I shouldn't talk to strangers." There was a pause. Then he laughed again, softer this time. "Okay, I'll call you Grinny." I froze outside his bedroom door. My hands started shaking so badly I dropped the glass of water I was holding. It shattered across the hallway floor, but he didn't stop talking. I slowly opened his door. He sat on his bed facing the closet, nodding like he was listening to someone standing inside it. I asked him who he was talking to. He turned toward me, smiling. A smile stretched far wider than a child's should ever be, and in a voice that wasn't entirely his, he said, "He says he missed our family." The closet door creaked open behind him, and I swear, I saw something inside bend down so it could fit through the frame. Still smiling, still waiting.